Squad, we reign supreme. Heat culture feels just like a dream. On the hardwood, we shine and gleam. Our game, our style, creme de la cream. True squad, we reign supreme. Heat culture feels just like a dream. On the hardwood, we shine and gleam. Our game, our style, creme de la cream.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to, I guess, I don't know if we call it the season premiere of the Goon Squad. We took a little bit of a break, but we're back. We have to come back. You know, we've been crazy with football season, all that whatnot. But my goodness, huge news out of Miami. The Jimmy Butler era is close to being over. So we got Courtney back. We got Alex Martell of the Miami Heat Zone is here with us. He was like, I got to be a part of the show. I'm like, hell yeah, get on here, my dude. So, and he's been on top of it as well. But before we get into all the Jimmy Butler stuff and what the hell the Heat are doing right now against Utah, let's welcome in the crew. First off, Martell, we'll start with you, brother. How you doing?
Listen, thank you guys for having me on the show. Make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button. They are pushing to 3,000 subscribers. And, listen, I think that this team, they're going to have to face a lot of realities, but we'll get into that in a moment. But thank you guys for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Doll of Doll's Diaries here with us. She talks everything from Dolphins to Heat, anything off the top. You would have loved East 10th Street Boys. I don't know if you caught it. We had a killer show. We were talking about the Jimmy Butler situation before it absolutely blew up. Actually, we talked about it as it happened. But then we had a great debate. Tati was on, Miss Finns and Alex got into it. We were having the Caitlin Clark and Alex. Oh my goodness. What's her name?
Simone Biles.
There you
Simone
go.
Biles.
That was a lot of fun, Courtney. So you would have loved that. But how are you doing?
I missed it. I'm sad I missed that. First of all, I love Miss Fins. I'm good. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad, the crew's back together. I just hate the circumstance.
For sure.
I've had it with Miami sports disappointing me this year. I'm 0 for 3 right now. I'm 0 for 3.
I get it. Alex, we were just with each other a couple days ago, man, talking this situation. Martell came on before anything broke, and as soon as the game was over, it all started falling into place. And then right after, he requests the trade, and the day after, he suspended 7 games. Before any of that, how are you, brother?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Yeah, it was surprising how everything unfolded so quickly. While we started our show, the game was still going on. The game was done. Then it's the post-game press conference, and then we started this conversation, and then the Shams report breaks as we're ending it. So it's been a crazy 48 hours, and you can kind of see the play on the court. Obviously, you start today on a massive run. You're playing faster, and then all of a sudden you go back to old ways, and you start the lazy habits, and it's emotional, I guess, for the most part. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it obviously right now Miami's playing Utah. Utah is 7-25, yet Miami is losing 74-48.
Yeah.
I mean, that blows. That sucks, especially after everything that's going on. But I guess there's an excuse for it just because of the situation that's going on in Miami. Martell, I mean, what do you make of right now? We'll get into Jimmy Butler. What do you make of this performance by the Heat so far?
We just don't have enough. I think that Pat Riley, he's failed to really, build up this roster properly. I mean, think about it. We've been lacking size since 2020. We are playing a team with multiple 7-footers, and then the 7-footer that we have on the bench, he doesn't start, and then we throw out Haywood Highsmith. Like, why is Terry Rozier in the lineup? And he's been terrible this whole season. So there's just a lot of things wrong with this roster. I mean, you really can't blame Spo all the way because he's not necessarily the one building the roster. But Haywood Highsmith, he's not a 4. And I just don't understand why we've been lacking size. We've been lacking, just pure athletes. We've been lacking scoring for all these, past few years, and nothing has been done about it.
I think I understand that frustration. I know, Miami and Alex will get into that. Miami's been limited in regards of assets and what they can do. They did bring in Rozier. They did bring in Lowry. We know how that all worked out. The sizing, I absolutely agree, and that's why I was all about drafting a center, going after another center. And of course, they brought in Ware, but they have not really played him. They played him last game. He scored a career high of 25 points. Courtney, I mean, with the Heat's current product right now, obviously we're getting into Jimmy, but you see what's going on here. Does this have a lot to do with this performance? Would you put this on Jimmy, or would you just put this with, like Martel's saying, it's just the way the lineup is going? It's just, this is not the right lineup for this Heat team.
I didn't like the starting five. But I think, I mean, yeah, the team, I don't think we have enough. I don't think we've had enough. And I think when Jimmy gives it his all and we get into the, playoff Jimmy, we have just enough to skate by. But without that, I don't think the rest of the team, it's not enough. There's a couple of missing pieces, size, shooting, consistency. I just don't think, I think all these years of, no, we're going to run it back. Like, I believe in this team. It reminds me of like Chris Greer. Like, you're more worried about the offense than we are. Like, it's just, we needed something. We needed, I'm not a big fan of Rozier after, last year's Mr. Injury. And I don't love him. And then, oh my God, who's the new mini Lowry? I'm like drawing a blank. I call him the new Lowry. We just picked up.
Probably Terry Rozier.
Is it Rozier?
No, it wasn't Rozier. There was another one that I don't love. I'm blanking now, but it's also 9:40. Yeah, I just don't think that we have enough.
Understood. And it looks, obviously, I mean, Spo is trying to mix and match and trying to figure out the right lineup. And again, we say with the Dolphins all the time, Doll, is, it doesn't seem like a rocket science to figure out what's the right thing to do. Martell's saying it right off the bat, why the hell is Highsmith starting? Why do we not have Rare getting more time? We need big size. Obviously, that might be helping here. Looks like Rare's only had 7 minutes and he only has a rebound, no points. Alex, you hear what they're saying. Do you concur?
In regards to what, the build or the time?
Yeah, what's going on with Miami tonight so far? You're seeing what's happening. Is it a lot to do with the lineup? Does this have to do, like what Tati is saying in the comments about the morale of the team with the Jimmy situation?
It's a combination of things. Especially when you start off hot, it's always easy, and the team is going to settle. They were getting killed with paint touches. The Jazz were just getting to the middle of the paint consistently, taking advantage of their size, and that is something that I was surprised by the change of starting lineup in regards to Terry and benching Robinson, because I thought that they was going to give you a different dynamic. Even with Highsmith, I don't mind Highsmith starting, but what affected that is that Jovic starts, and you see Jovic playing freely now. That's the epitome of where this is going to go. Jovic and Hero and Ware and Bam, but now you see a more. It's a compiling of problems because Bam is off today again. And Bam has been struggling offensively this year. His efficiency is down. Obviously, due to that nature, the points per game is down. So now it's just going to be magnified even more because Jimmy's not there. So they're going to start questioning Bam more. There's going to be more of a microscope under their team. But yet, do I think this team was kind of built with Jimmy being the driving force, but in a different role, which is funny that he brought up role, because the Jimmy role was to stabilize this offense. The Jimmy role was to know when to run, when to slow it down. So this team is kind of built for that. I'm surprised they didn't just slide Jaime into the Jimmy role to start. Yeah. I was really surprised by that. I thought they were going to go with Jaime so that way they can keep Jovic and Ware intact. You need to have Jovic, Ware, and Hero minutes. And due to the fact that they started Jovic and they staggered it properly, I don't know if you saw it. They staggered it properly. They kept Jovic and they brought Ware in the game and they rested Bam, but it was only for like 2 minutes. You need that lineup with Hero, and do not be surprised if down the line this year, it might not be right now, but I do see Jovic, Bam, and Ware playing together. That's where the NBA is going. Not where it's going. That's where the NBA is. You see it with Utah. You see it with OKC. You see it with Orlando. Size is important now, but functional size, athletic size. We just don't need tall players. This NBA is an athletic, basically alien-like league now, where even your point guard is 6'7", 6'6" above. So there's growing pains, but a lot of people, and I'm going to squash this right now, this is not the year to tank. If we're in the lottery, we have to convey our picks. So this is not the
Yeah,
year
exactly.
to tank. It's a very bad year to tank, and I know people are going to automatically say it, but it's still fresh. The Heat are going to try to build somewhat of leverage with Jimmy, using teams to start bidding against each other, because right now there's little leverage, and I still see them dragging it out as much. They want to do it as soon as possible because of the morale of the team, the locker room. You see it. You saw when Bam kept getting asked
Oh,
those
Bam looks
questions.
defeated.
Yeah, it's very fresh. It's very difficult to play a game. And yes, you are a professional. Now, believe it or not, what's going to help this team is when they go on the road, because when you go on the road, then you start building that relationship again, and you start feeling a little free. Like, you kind of understand now, 2, 3, 4 games in, like, okay, Jimmy's not going to be here anymore. Like, that's it. Like, this is us now. And then you start getting comfortable, because right now, it's even like, I want to say, like, survivor's remorse, where, like, Jimmy's your brother. You've shared the court with him. He's led you, like, especially Nico. Jimmy has been his #1 champion to get Nico on the court and to play the 4, which is he's thriving now. So it's a lot of survivor remorse with the team. It's a lot of emotion. So the young guys will get some playing time now in the 3rd and the 4th quarter. So the game is going to be closer than 27 points. This game might end up being like a 10-point game, 15-point game, but like you're going to see the division and the new era, really. But it sucks that it happens today, because automatically the talk of the town is how important Jimmy is, and it might drive the value up. It might drive his value up. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
Let's get into it, and we'll start with Martel and back the doll. This moved very quickly, Martel. Obviously, East 10th Street Boys, you popped in there on the audio, calling in, talking, because we were talking about the Jimmy Butler situation, and kind of where it was lead after his comments, because it wasn't really hard to read through his comments before that game, and then you're like, good night. You leave, game is over, and all of a sudden, brother, it goes downhill from there. And you popped on your videos. I was like, okay, I got to get Goon Squad back rolling, because I got to talk about this extra, being Alex and Courtney. So, man, we see everything. Jimmy comes out and says, he can't be happy here, kind of throws the coach under the bus, throws his teammates under the bus a little bit with the comments about his role and whatever. The players, the word is the players, his teammates who have been supporting him, kind of, when he made those comments about Coach Spo, are now kind of like they're done with it. And so there's a lot going on in Miami right now. It's moving pretty fast. Miami first, Pat Riley comes out, never really does this, says, we're not trading him. Let's just end that right here. We're not doing that. A week later, 2 weeks later, Jimmy does what he does during this press after the game. They come out and say, we're suspending Jimmy 7 days, 7 games, 7 whatever. Conduct detrimental to the team. And then he obviously his 8 Bernie and them, they make it known that they want to be moved. We're listening to offers. You, not only as a Heat fan, but someone who covers the Heat as much as you do, you have a whole channel dedicated to the Miami Heat. Your reaction at that point, and man, what the hell are you hearing on your end?
This is why the league is like slowly losing numbers, because you have guys sitting up here that make $42 million. They get around here and they don't want to play the game. I mean, the Miami Heat have accommodated, Jimmy Butler more than they did their own franchise star that they built a statue for. They allow Jimmy Butler to be in completely different hotels than the team on the road. I mean, the fact that he's not even the captain of the team, that was a huge thing to me, because how are you the max guy? You're supposed to be the leader, but then you're not the captain. And then same thing with Bam too. Like, you're telling me that he doesn't want to be the captain, but they're crowning him as the franchise guy. There's a lot of stuff going on that I really don't understand with this team. I think that they've really gotten away from some of their, foundational points. And not to go like on a crazy rant or anything, but it's just like the Miami Heat have pretty much accommodated Jimmy in every way possible. Even next year, whether he opts in or he opts out, he's looking at $52 million.
Exactly.
What more? And all Pat Riley said is, listen, we don't want to pay you right now. What if you just play during the regular season? Now we'll see where the team is. We're going to see how your health is. We're going to see if you're engaged or not. Then we can have the discussion in the offseason. What's wrong with that? That is the part that I don't understand. He is dragging all of this. All Pat Riley said, because even when he told him to shut his mouth, that has nothing to do about anything else but don't comment about basketball. about if, when, shoulda, coulda, woulda, if you're not on the court.
Exactly. Yes.
That's it. All this other stuff that he's running around here trying to throw Spo under the bus, and the fact that he quit on his teammates. He quit on Tyler, Bam, Spo, and the organization. That was my biggest thing. Because like I said, you're still getting paid. Yeah, he's going to get hit with a 7 day fine or whatever, but you're still getting paid that $42+ million this year. And like I said, next year, whether you opt in or opt out, he's looking at $52 million next year. I understand he wants the extension. All Pat Riley said was, listen, we'll talk about it later. Why can't you just go out there and hoop like everybody else? And like I tell everybody, like in the comments, because they're saying, oh, well, Jimmy Butler did this and Jimmy Butler did that. Anyone that doesn't go to work will get fired in the real world. So why are we trying to make it seem like the same, like the same stuff doesn't apply to us? That is what's wrong with this era. Everybody wants to get paid, but I don't see anybody playing basketball.
Man, I think you're right on the money. Look, all love in the world for Jimmy Butler and respect and everything he's done for Miami. I mean, he's going to go down. I don't want to. When I'm saying that, I don't. What I'm following up with, and I know you agree, Dahl and Alex as well. We've all enjoyed Jimmy's run, but for me, it's you're looking at how it's all played out, and I know you said at the top of the show about the way the roster's been constructed and the criticisms with Pat Riley, but I see a lot of people going at Pat Riley. You're like, oh, you're renting Jimmy Butler out of town. No, Jimmy did this to himself. I mean, this did not have to be the way it is. We all knew it was going to come to a head in regards of if he's going to leave at the end of the year for nothing, or do you move him before the deadline. But you did not foresee Jimmy doing this. And then you go, oh, because he's mad. But he did this in Chicago. He did this in Minnesota. He did this in Philly. And now it's happening in Miami, which is crazy because, the report is, he was pissed off at Pat Riley for saying, shut up. What are you talking? Like you said, if you're not playing on the court, don't talk about it. Be available. Then you could say something. He didn't. All of a sudden, he's offended. But yet he has said beforehand that he loved that about the Heat. He loved that about Pat Riley.
That's what I don't
understand.
Being
called out. Because all of a sudden now he's offended by it. When Pat Riley came out and said, hey, I know we're not looking at that right now. We're going to wait till the end of the year because we don't have to talk extension right now. He's not lying. He's absolutely right. He has an option. We don't have to talk about that now. We got a year. Jimmy Butler came out afterwards and said, I'm cool with that. I want to play. I want to help this team win. All of a sudden, that's not the case. Now, all of a sudden, that's not the case. He wants that deal. Now he's shitting on everybody. So he could basically, he have to say, okay, dude, we can't have you on we can't have you with our guys because you're dragging everybody else down. And they suspended him. Courtney, you're hearing all this. What are your thoughts on this whole situation with Jimmy? Do you put this on Jimmy? Are you feeling the same way we are about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of coming out a little diva-ish. And I know that Jimmy has a history of behavior. It just, the timing is weird. I think that there was some foreshadowing, especially in the offseason. If you remember, like, the press opener, he was like almost late, almost missed it. It was like very subdued. Oh shit! I gotta go. Shit.
Oh, I guess not.
Alex?
But I will definitely pick up from there because
go ahead.
They also said that Jimmy Butler wasn't trying, which I agree. I mean, he was taking a one-legged three in the game. So, like I said, I just think that all Pat Riley said was, "Listen, we want you to see how many games are you going to play? Are you going to be engaged?" Because I think the biggest mistake, and I know that this will sound crazy, they shouldn't have built this team around Jimmy Butler the way that they did. So what I mean by that is the way that they built this roster, they made it seem like Jimmy's going to play more than like 70 games. Yep. Jimmy has never been available since he's been here. And why are we trying to put all this pressure on Jimmy to play games when for the past few seasons he's never been available? That's the part that I really don't understand. 6 years. Yeah, exactly. 6 years.
Go ahead, Alex.
Well, to piggyback on what you just said, what surprised me was this really changed in a matter of a week and a half. From the moment he twisted his ankle, and then he was out for the illness. No one questioned the illness if it was true or not. Obviously, there was rumors about it, but they confirmed it. And the one thing that I heard the other day, even Ethan Skolnick confirmed it, is that the Heat were led to believe that he was going to come back and just play out the year. His words, his representations was that he was going to ball out, and then the whole fiasco started. Apparently, in my opinion, being around athletes and team environments, when he was called out for his efforts against New Orleans, that's what triggered it. And I would not be surprised if he's the one talking to Shams. And I mean, he did this with Rachel Nichols. After practice, he sat down in Minnesota. He had to sit down and interview Rachel Nichols, and the team was still in practice. So this is a coordinated thing. So when Jimmy was the first one to come out for that press conference after that game, I forgot, was it New Orleans or no? Oh my God, it was against the other one. I forgot who they played. When he sat down in that press conference where he basically demanded the trade after, that's the part right there that I'm like, oh, this is coordinated, because you can't have an organization, no matter what happens. And for the people that call that this organization didn't do enough for Jimmy, look, I understand when people have those frustrations or those reservations. Now, I've been a big believer in they needed to acquire athletic size, and they're a year behind on that. I'm 100% behind that. Now, the two moves that I've always criticized this front offense for not pursuing was when James Harden was available and Kyrie Irving was available. I thought that was a mistake. I thought that they should have looked at those avenues, because those were two players that could alleviate this offense, and you didn't have to move Hero on either of those trades, in my opinion. Now, those are the two things that I understand. He wanted Kyle Lowry. He got Kyle Lowry paid. The Heat were not going to give Kyle. No team was going to give Kyle Lowry a 3-year deal with guaranteed $30 million a year. No team was going to do it. He got it for him. They wanted him. And granted, Kyle helped Bam evolve his game. We were the first seed. That's fine, but we knew that was going to run its course the moment it happened. Now, the Dame Lillard situation, you can kind of pinpoint that as being the nail in the coffin for this run with Jimmy's window. When you don't acquire Dame, that's kind of like, okay, there goes the air out of the building, just like we felt last year. And everybody was stunned that it happened. So that was what we rolled in with last year, that kind of sour taste in your mouth. And going into the season, you were supposed to be a different team. Then the whole Donovan Mitchell conversations come up, Kevin Durant. Just because the Heat are named as possible destinations does not mean we have the assets or a player even wants to come here. Like, unfortunately, we've built this reputation that Heat is the ultimate destination, and it's true, because even Bernie Lee said it, Jimmy Butler has said it. When he got here, it's like they're letting me be me. There's no other place I've been able to be me. That doesn't change. Now, what changes is you don't get an extension. I was surprised. I'm not gonna lie. I was surprised that he acted this way now, unless he has some information from other teams that are willing to give him a max extension right now. I was very surprised he acted this way, because I understand now that he being down to the Jazz, people are going to say Jimmy's value is through the roof, but it doesn't do him any service for him to act this way, because he has a history of this behavior, and he's no longer 28, 29. He's 36 years old or 35. Teams are not going to offer you these max deals unless they're a desperate team and they just have cap space and they're going to do it, kind of like Philadelphia with Paul George. I do not comprehend why he would act this way if it does him and the team. He's productive. He plays the games that he can play. He balls out. He was having probably his most efficient season ever in the beginning of the season. So it wasn't about roles or anything. This team was built for that. Now, was it naturally going to change? Absolutely. And as the year progressed, were guys going to get more playing time, the Ware and the Jovic, you can make an argument. And I understand it's very recent, it's very raw, but realistically, for people that know basketball, you can take a step back. You can make an argument. It might not be the most experienced team he's had, but it is the most athletic team he's been a part of. And yes, I understand the Caleb Martin years and all that. This team genuinely could be built, and with Jimmy leading it, they could have been successful this year. That's the part I'm stunned about. Is he going to go to another situation where he has, maybe if he gets traded to Memphis, if he gets traded to Houston, but now we're starting to see what packages are being offered. The Warriors are going to play hard to get. Why? Because they don't want to give up a young core to have another 36-year-old with Curry. So, and I understand the value of Jimmy in a win-now mode, but these teams are not going to sell the farm to you. So I've been a big believer, and I'm going to let you guys tell me in regards to what you feel about this. I understand the suspension, and we figured that they had to separate him from the team because you cannot have that lingering. But I don't think Miami's in a rush basketball-wise to make a move just to take any package. They're not going to do that. They're going to weather this storm. Why? Because you have stability in the front office. The guys are going to get comfortable in their roles, and they're going to make a move when they see it's right. I would be surprised if there is no move, but I would not understand why they don't make a move and this drags out into the summer, because there is more potential in the summer, as we had talked about before in other episodes, Bob, for them to get a more flexible package, something more beneficial for them. But time will tell what the offers come to.
I want to tag Courtney in if she's good to go. I just want to say very quick, just to respond to what you're saying. I agree with you, but the reason why I would push back on that is because what you're seeing today from the players, you read how Bam is react. You see you read how his person, how he's coming off. It's a distraction, and it's always going to be a distraction, no matter if you suspend him or not. Or you say, hey man, stay away from the team. They're always going to talk about Jimmy Butler, and when the Heat struggle, they're going to talk about why is it, what's going on with Jimmy. They're going to always, once Jimmy's gone, then they're going to be able to move past that situation. So I think in a perfect world, and I think that's what Miami wanted to do, was to wait till the summer to either say, hey, let's work it out, or hey, thank you for everything, goodbye. But because Jimmy has forced his hand and made this as ugly as he can, that's going to force Miami's hand to say, okay, we got to figure out a way how to get this deal done. And we're going to go over the different teams. Martel and I talked about it before too. There's some teams there that were heavily rumored about Miami, or people are trying to implicate in it, but they're coming out saying, not really. We're not really interested. But before we get into any of that, Courtney, first off, is everything okay? And second, please finish your point. Oh, you're muted, girl.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yes. My brother's dog's here, and I heard the dogs fighting.
Oh.
No, actually.
Well, I heard the barking. I did. Yeah, I heard it.
Yeah, well, they're two pit bulls. So,
okay.
They were in my youngest son's room, so I had to go break it up and handle that. So that's why I ran so fast. I was more worried that my son was going to be in the middle. He wasn't. But sorry about that. My adrenaline's pumping now, but
you're fired up. It's all good.
Everything's good. They luckily weren't going for blood. They were just lightly fighting. I lost track of what I was saying, obviously, but I would also, kind of going off of what Alex said, I'd be shocked if he didn't move. I mean, I've been hearing there's a lot of interest around the league. The problem is, and the front office is probably worried too, I don't like this team without Jimmy. I don't like it with the current role that Jimmy's been playing, him half-assing it on the court and having 7 points in a game. But I don't like this team's chances without Jimmy in a year that we need to, I believe it's a playoff win we need in order to shore up those draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we can get there without him, especially with the young guys. By the way, it was Highsmith who I was referring to earlier as my new Lowry.
Okay.
That's locksmith, man.
But I just so I do worry about it being it's not just, we can't float by this year, and I'm not sure unless we get a really good package deal. And first of all, let me say, I've been hearing the rumors, and I swear to God, if somebody tries to say that Duncan Robinson is going to be put in a package with Jimmy Butler, I'm going to strangle that person, because we already know. You leave Duncan alone, because first of all, who's going to shoot the threes? Because it's not going to be Bam right now. But I just, I don't know why Jimmy decided now to implode the team. I think it's selfish. I think that that could potentially be a deterrent maybe for some teams that don't want the drama and the theatrics that he could bring. And obviously, when he decides he's done, he's done. I mean, I would love to be able to go to work and be like, yeah, F it, I'm going to do 20%. But you let me know fourth quarter, I'll come back around. And you're sitting on, you make roughly $50 million a year. I think it's just, I just don't agree with it. I don't I just hate that he did it the way he did it. And I don't know why you couldn't finish the season. You try to, rally for your teammates. These are supposed to be your brothers. And you're just acting like a child. Like, he's throwing a temper tantrum is how it kind of feels to me. But I think it also falls on Pat Riley and failing to build the team outside of Jimmy Butler and putting all of your ducks in Jimmy Butler's basket or eggs, whatever. We've needed some things for a while. We're always attached to a name. If we're attached to it, I know we're not getting it. But there's been plenty of guys out there, Damian Lillard, that we could have used, who could have been assets that we failed to pick up. And now we're asking these young guys to come in and do things, and we don't have enough pieces. It seems like, I'm mainly blaming Jimmy, but I think Pat is not, he doesn't have clean hands in this either, because he could have been doing the best. If he knew the writing's been on the wall for at least a year with Jimmy, you should have this offseason, worked to ensure that when he left, your team was still going to be good. And he didn't put himself in that position. And so I think, there's two sides. I can see both sides. And I'm on Team Spo, who's just caught in the middle.
No, but she's right. This roster has been a complete failure by Pat Riley. Like I said, the roster construction, bad asset management. We haven't really, spoken about the bad asset management. We have no first-round picks. We're just throwing around second-round picks. I just think, like I said, maybe we might need somebody new, like at the helmet. Like I said, Pat Riley's been great. Jimmy Butler has been great. There's no superstar that's in the NBA that could have done what Jimmy Butler has done with that ragtag crew full of undrafted guys and Bam Adebayo and all the injuries. Paul George couldn't do it, and none of these other guys in the NBA could have done it with the team that Jimmy Butler had. I just think, like I said, Jimmy Butler, he is completely overblowing it. But it's like what you said earlier. This is what Jimmy does, unfortunately. And sometimes we all know that he's crazy, and we're getting the crazy right now. Go ahead.
We just lost Bobby there. But I just noticed one thing. Teams, whenever an emotional state goes through, whenever they go through an emotional state like this, usually you get that one-game shell shock where you kind of go off adrenaline. So you saw it in the first few minutes, and they were playing just free. And I'm like, all right, let's see when it settles down, because we were up like 9-1. I'm like, okay, this is not sustainable. We'll see what happens. And then the first quarter came out perfectly fine, and then the second quarter came, and you saw the adjustments from the Jazz, which this is why in the NBA and like any other sport is any given night. This team without Jimmy Butler went to Orlando, beat Orlando. So it's not like they don't know how to play basketball. Now, what I am surprised is, once again, and sometimes it happens to me in certain moments, but you go away from something that works. And I do not like, for this team to be successful, every role player has to excel in their role. And this is going to be team basketball, no matter who we acquire. And it might be a few games, and we're going to see this. We might have a successful West Coast trip. Like, I would not be surprised if out of our 6 games, we maybe go 4-2. I would not be surprised at all, because it tends to happen in these momentum swings. But you got to trust. This is when Spo and the coaching staff have to trust in themselves. And I think they do, but they try to overthink sometimes, and they tinker too much. Duncan Robinson needs to be starting. I want Terry coming off the bench. And I don't care.
I'm leading the train.
I don't care if you start Hawkins. And look, I'm a big believer in Hawkins can stabilize you, but I also see him. There's days that Pelle Larsson should be playing over Hawkins. And I see it clear as day. The same way I saw Hero's ascension and Jovic needing to play on ball. Jovic needs to be a playmaker. You can't have Jovic in the corner. So when you start Terry and when you start Hero, obviously Hero's going to start. But I don't even mind if you start Jovic, because you can stagger the Bam lineups and have Khalil Ware come, and then you got the Jovic Ware minutes and Hero minutes, and then you bring in Bam with Keshad Johnson. Keshad Johnson's going to have a role in this team going forward, depending on who we acquire. And you kind of see that is your energy shift that you need. And one thing that people talk about Bam's game, Bam opens up Duncan Robinson's game, and Duncan opens up Bam's game. And at the same time, when you have the Hero and Duncan backcourt, it flourishes. You have Highsmith now as your point of attack defender. You got Jovic creating for Hero and Duncan. And you got Bam. So this can work if you play team basketball. So today, it's one of those games that it's like an etch-a-sketch. Like, it sucks the timing of this. This is why. That's why I love the poetry of basketball and of all sports, because now automatically everybody across the board, I guarantee you, when this game is over, it's, oh, you see, it's because of Jimmy. We need Jimmy. And we've won games without Jimmy Butler. And this is the Utah Jazz. They're the worst team in the NBA, but yet they have something that is our Achilles heel, athletic size. So, like, I cannot tell you any more in regards to how important Khalil Ware's development is going to be this year. Jovic development is going to be this year, where Bam is no longer having to play center or be your tallest man out there on the floor. Like, Bam could be one of the top wing defenders in the NBA. He's your multi-dimensional defender. Bam could guard everyone, and you can have a productive basketball team. This has to be a team effort going down the line. And like I said, we don't know if there's moving pieces, because usually when something like this happens, and Court, I know you love Dunk, and I don't think they're going to move him, but I believe there are other movable pieces within this team, even a Richardson. I wouldn't say Burks, but even I know they'll dangle Triple J at times. I know they'll dangle, I wouldn't say Highsmith, but I would not be surprised depending on who's returning. So it's going to be an interesting. Teams are going to start bidding, and when we went from having no market for Jimmy, when teams are getting closer and they kind of see, that other teams kind of want him a little bit more, then they throw that extra nickel. So, but I understand the fans' frustration with the situation, and it sucks because, once again, the front office is going to take blame, but we went into the season, and I believe they thought they had an agreement with Jimmy that this is the way it was going to play out. It was going to be amicable. It was going to be professional, and it was in good for both. It was good for a team, and it was good for the player. So that's why I'm really stunned that it happened. I'm not surprised, but I'm really stunned that it happened this way, this time.
Van Lee, that's Alex, man. Catch him here on FTSN on East 10th Street, boys. Diehard Miami Heat fan for life, man. Basketball lives and breathes it, brother. But I will say, I want to say this very quick too, because I think I'm sorry my computer acted up a little bit, but what Martell was saying, I wrote it down because I just love what he said, and it kind of falls hand with what MJW 125 was saying. Stop blaming Pat. He tried to make moves, but there's a lot of fans saying you can trade Tyler or don't trade Duncan. Just way too many fans have emotional connections to players. We know he did try to make the moves. Obviously the team was linked to a lot of things. But why did Miami can't make those moves? We know they tried. The thing that killed Miami, and I think this is Martell hit it right on the head. It wasn't that Pat didn't try or the Miami Heat front office didn't try.
Assets.
They obviously make it. It's asset management. They did. We value our assets way more than everybody else does. Oh, let's go get Dame Lillard. Let's go get this guy. Well, we'll trade Tyler and tag him with this and it. Obviously, or what draft picks did we have? We didn't have enough draft picks to make those type of moves. Kevin Durant. No, the other teams did not value Tyler Hero as much as we valued them. Miami did not have the assets to make that move, and that's where a lot of fans did not think that through. And Pat Riley and the front office, because he has the final say, but it runs down. There's other guys in that front office, but they did not make the right moves to collect those assets to make those type of deals when those deals became available to them. That's why when people were talking about Rosen, Donovan Mitchell, Beal, which I'm glad we didn't do that, but Beal and every time some name pops up, they connect it to the Miami Heat. But Miami did not have the assets to do it. So Martell was right on the money when he brought up asset management. That's where Miami failed. No matter if Jimmy was on the roster or not, that's where Miami messes up because they don't have that. They need to rebuild that. And that's why any deal that goes down for Jimmy, the most important thing for me, everybody goes, oh, we got to trade him, him for De'Aaron Fox. It's going to take a lot more. You're not going to get De'Aaron Fox straight up for Jimmy Butler. To me, what's most important is assets. Whether it's young pieces of expiring deals and draft picks. Rebuild that asset so you could make moves to build around a core of a Tyler and a Bam. What's up, Alex?
Just put something in perspective so then you could go to court. And to, it happened to us that the NBA shifted after the new CBA, where we were in a transition. It happened to some contending teams that the Miami Heat's philosophy before was never first-round picks and having a vault full of picks. Why? Because, and not even talking about development, they've always developed certain players, but the development department and the second-round picks and those mid-team picks really started kicking after LeBron left. Like that's when the development phase became where you saw Spo alter his coaching staff and it became more of a developmental staff.
Well, and
So,
of course,
but
though, too, because when you have someone like LeBron, your goal is
oh
to
yeah,
win
of
now.
course. But
You know,
even those situations, and this is people even forget about this, and I'm gonna use this quick example. When Pat signed LeBron and Chris Bosh, he told them in order for them to get the 6-year contract, they knew they were going to opt out after 4. Everybody knew they were going to opt out after 4. He told them in order to them secure max deal 6-year deals, he had to trade first round picks to Cleveland, to Toronto. And he's like, you guys understand that with those picks, we're going to build youth around you. Now we're going to be stuck with signing veteran players, which we were successful. But what happened at the end of LeBron's run? We were an old team. We were a beaten team. We didn't have youth. So that's when that shift came, and now it kind of happened with Jimmy that we even had to trade a first pick for Jimmy. The whole situation with Kyle Lowry last year, we attached a first round pick to get rid of Kyle Lowry's contract to acquire Terry Rozier, which I loved the move at the time, pre-injury. We thought there was going to be a spark, but then in hindsight, you're like, damn, if we would have let Kyle Lowry's contract expire, we would have been in a much better situation this offseason, and the front office knows that. But now you're in a situation where you shift the philosophy, and because of the new CBA with the second apron, you see teams like the Suns. The Suns don't have a controllable first-round pick until 2031, and they're above the second apron with a team that is 15 and 18, and 2 of their stars are 32 and above. So who's in the driver's seat? The teams that saw this, OKC, Orlando. OKC has about, I think, 10 first-round picks the next 5 years. They can't make all those picks. Why? Because they have players that they're going to sign to long-term deals. So they're ahead of the curve already. So that's when you kind of see a shift. But because of who we are, you're never going to see a full tank rebuild mode. And honestly, when you got Tyler and Bam and you got Jovic coming up and Ware, you don't genuinely have to tank. Like, you have to make some moves, not lateral moves. It might look like a lateral move now because you have to match salaries for Jimmy. But I'm going to be intrigued of what is the top return that we can get if it's a win player now, because they need to make the playoffs this year.
Let me throw this over to Martel, because I know Martel only has a few more minutes, but I definitely want to get just in regard to the teams that are reported to.
Don't worry, like you're good on time, man. Don't worry.
Okay, good.
Boom. We got to continue to.
We got Martel.
We got Martel. Well, let me get you in here though, Martel, just with the teams, because obviously the Rockets, the Warriors, and the Suns are the teams that were being added up in there. ESPN is full on Phoenix Suns, get Bradley Beal to Miami. They should trade Bradley Beal to Miami, but like Miami wants to take on Bradley Beal. But the Warriors and the Rockets are reportedly not interested. Phoenix is still involved, obviously. Memphis is a team that's really started to gain steam now. Talk about the Pelicans and the Nuggets. We saw Brandon Ingram's name pop up in there. But regards of Memphis, the 3 players that were rumored to be involved in a possible Butler trade are all reportedly questionable for Saturday. Luke Kennard, Desmond Bain, John Concher. So, it's kind of ironic in how that plays out. But Martel, I'll start with you, and then Dahl, and then Alex. But out of these teams, the Nuggets, Phoenix Suns, Memphis, or maybe another team that maybe wasn't reported, what team is the most attractive to you, or that you're like, I would like this because maybe draft picks or just young pieces? You hear Memphis. What are your thoughts on any of those teams?
So the biggest one is probably the Rockets. However, there's always that dark horse team that always comes out of nowhere and just swoops in like at the last second. So I'm still waiting to see what that team might be. The problem is that Jimmy Butler's 35 years old, and then plus with this new CBA, there's probably like a lot of teams like the Rockets who they want him, but then at the same time they're like, well, why am I going to give up all my young talent for Jimmy Butler, who's moody right now? Same thing like with the Golden State Warriors. They have Wiggins and Kuminga. Why are they going to give up 2 young wing defenders who Wiggins won a championship, like a championship with them? And then you also have Kuminga, who he's starting to rise. Why would they give him up for Jimmy Butler? So I think the most reasonable and the most realistic one is probably going to be Brandon Ingram. If we can get like Brandon Ingram and maybe a first-round pick, I'm not like the biggest Brandon fan. However, he's 27 years old. He does fit the timeline. He does bring you scoring. And I think that he could probably use a change of scenery. But outside of that, I don't think that many teams are going to run around here and try to give up a bunch of assets for Jimmy Butler unless they're desperate. But the biggest thing, like what you said, is at least 2 first-round picks and then let me get that young player. That's it.
Yeah, I'm with that.
I can't be greedy with that, you know.
I hear you. No, I think you're on the money. Yeah, Courtney.
I haven't looked too hard into it. But the one that I've seen circulate a little bit is a trade with Memphis for Clark and Smart. I wouldn't hate that, but I don't know. I'd have to see who actually has the viable interest and what they can give us. I don't know. I don't know because I'm not sure what Hole could fix the team now, and that's kind of what I'm focused on. But I don't. How much is Jimmy worth? Is this really going to, Jimmy's worth a lot to the Heat, but I don't know if he's really worth a lot to another team that maybe.
Which I think is on purpose, especially after what he came out and did, and the way he did it. And this is not the first team that he's done it with. I know a lot of people say, I don't think anybody is not putting any blame on Pat Riley. I think all of us have kind of put blame on him in regard to this. But this is not the first. Again, it's not the first time Jimmy's done this. He's done this with I think every team he's been with. It's an ugly exit. And I mean, to me, I don't think it's too far to say that he may have done this on purpose. Where again, when they emphasized Shams in his report, said he is cool to play with any other team other than Miami. That is taking leverage out of the Heat's ball court because now they're like, okay, he just wants to leave, and he doesn't care what trade, what draft picks. It's not about helping the Miami Heat. It's full on ugly now. And so, like you're saying, that killed the value, in my opinion, in what type of deal you can actually get. And that's why for me, it's like, people say, oh, let's get this guy, De'Aaron Fox. Yeah, that's a real nice fantasy. But sounds reality great. Is, who's going to do that? Yeah, it sounds amazing. But let's be real here. That's why, you look at the men, Marcus Smart and Brandon. Those guys. That's a decent deal for a team that may think they still have a run. And Miami, the report is Miami thinks they still could. But you have to get some sort of draft compensation. That's my.
That's the problem, though, Pat Riley. Why are you running around here saying that we still think that we can compete with it? We can't compete now. Like we're getting blown up by the Utah Jazz. Well, I know. Listen. These Miami Heat fans, they don't want to hear it. They need to let the team die. Listen, we need to let the team. Listen, I am the biggest Miami Heat fan. My views are going to go down because of this. Think about it. You're telling me that we've ran this team 6 years in a row with marginal improvements. We've technically been running back the same team with slightly different undrafted players. You're telling me that you guys went to go get Kashai Johnson and you guys want to compete for a championship? People are parading. Listen, Khalil Ware is great, but if he's giving us all these minutes, we are not a championship team. And I just think that, listen, I know a lot of people will say, well, with Jimmy, we could do this, and with Jimmy, we could do that. We've been in the play-in tournament 2 years in a row. And we're looking to be in the play-in tournament another season. So 3 seasons in a row. Something needs to change. I know we didn't want to trade Jimmy, but at the end of the day, we don't necessarily have to make the team die. But when Pat is coming out here talking about, well, we want a superstar-like player, like in return, we're not just going to take any package, the run is over. The run is over, guys.
I will say, I'll let Alex tag in here because I just want to say something that Alex usually says. And what you're saying right here in regards of it's been kind of rinse and repeat, and you got these play-in things, and that probably if Jimmy was last, even though Miami won without Jimmy until he came back, and he just put like literally 10% effort in when he did. Today, first off, I see the comments, I hear what you're saying. I said today I put this on the whole situation. Miami did not play with any heart today. They're completely distracted. That's why I think the Miami Heat needs to move on now to let these guys grow. And whether they make the playoffs or not, let the young guys play, let it play out, make a deal, and move on from Jimmy. Because this what I saw today, what I'm seeing here, this is not the Heat don't lose that bad to this type of team. This is a straight up, totally deflated basketball team that we witnessed tonight. I put this a lot on the Jimmy Butler situation, but I agree with you. I think this could be a blessing in disguise for the team. For what you're saying alone is a complete reset. Trade Jimmy, you free up that space, you get some cap, you get some young piece of assets back, and you kind of start over with the core that you have. And of course, now it kind of frees you up to manipulate the roster to move some pieces on. Alex, you're hearing everything what's being said. What are your thoughts, bro?
Well, I'll mention my dark horse teams first. The two teams I kept thinking about and returning, because obviously the news in Memphis that it is picking up steam, and Memphis has the most viable compilation of contracts that can make the salary work, and it's expiring deals. So and Brandon Clark gives you some size, so it could work financially and with logistically, it could work with Memphis. So I do see that as a possibility. Hey, and Memphis is a great landing spot for Jimmy. Like, I understand the organization is going to be like, you're not gonna take him to his favorite destination, but this organization has always kind of been respectful, even when it's been disrespected. It's always kind of been respectful and kind of gets you to the place where you want to be. I know the situation is very weird, and it's even worse than Shaq's situation, because Shaq's trade demands never made public. It was held privately. An altercation happened with him and Pat Riley, and he was traded within 2 days. But that was a trade demand or request, and it was done privately. The dark horse teams that I keep thinking of in the ascension, but I don't know if they would want to do it, but they do have the personnel there to keep them in check, and that's the Clippers, because he's always wanted to play with Kawhi. James Harden is also a veteran, Hall of Fame player. So they have the stability, the structural stability there. And the other dark horse team, I think, is San Antonio. San Antonio has the money to make it work. They are a wing veteran piece away also. They might want to capitalize Wemby. But what people have to take into account is teams that are going to acquire, like you said, Martin, this isn't a 28-year-old disgruntled superstar with a 4-year contract. You got leverage when you got a 4-year contract. You can demand a lot of assets when you have a 27-year-old with a 4-year contract that you're trading. That's not the situation. Jimmy he has a 1-year contract with an opt-in. This is a rental situation. This is kind of like when Paul George was traded from Indiana to OKC, that they kind of ran the table. They had a year in, he opted in, and he extended. So the assets that you're going to get, there are some teams that might overpay a little bit when they hear about the teams that are involved, and that's why you don't trade a player the day after he requests a trade, especially when you're in this situation. This is going to drag on for a week and a half, 2 weeks. I don't see this happening anytime soon unless the offers heat up and you make a decision and you're happy with a return and you're good. Because ideally what Miami wanted to do, even with the Jimmy Butler situation, they were okay with going into the summer and then negotiating with him if he opted in or opted out, because either way, he needed Miami's help to get him to a contender. Jimmy Butler cannot sign right now with a contender this offseason unless the Miami Heat helped him with an opt-in trade, a signing trade with anybody else in return. So he can go to Brooklyn outright. That's fine. He can sign with them this offseason even if he opts out. But right now, which team is willing to go that extra mile? The Suns were not going to take Bradley Beal on. So any trade with the Suns, I think any trade realistically might have to be a 3-team trade. So now you're looking for teams that have disgruntled players that they're not going to extend, that they're going to lose for nothing. Brandon Ingram. Maybe De'Aaron Fox makes it nasty in Sacramento. I still don't see that happening, but it could happen, because if he tells them outright, I'm not going to sign an extension with you, he can kind of control the market. And we talked about it yesterday. And you mentioned it, Martel. Rich Paul is famous for getting his clients to where they want to go. So they can dictate this market as well. But Brandon Ingram, the Zion Williamson conversation, is he going to be moved? He has a 4-year contract. The whole holdup with Memphis is supposedly that Desmond Bane might be involved. That's another building piece for you, that Miami almost drafted him. So it's a situation where I think is going to come to necessity. But anybody that's expecting 3 first-round picks, you're out of your mind. Like, it's going to be maybe multiple second-round picks, maybe 1 first-round pick. But what the Heat are looking for, you're going to lose Jimmy regardless. You're looking for financial flexibility. If you get a piece that helps you compete, it's not going to be a superstar, but it could be a rotational piece. It could be a veteran presence with an expiring deal. If they take on any contract for more than 2 to 3 years, it's a young player that they see as a foundational piece or that they can move. That's why they're not going to take Bradley Beal, even if he removes his no trade clause. They might, but I highly doubt that Bradley Beal is going to end up in Miami, because if he removes his no trade clause, now I can understand, because it's movable. But yet you still have him for another year. He has a guarantee next year, and then he has an option the following year. So it might line up with 2026. It's just a lot of moving parts, man. I don't think the Heat wanted to make this decision in season. This is what caught them. Not that they caught them by surprise. They're ready for everything. They always have plan A, plan B, plan C. This organization is well ran. I know it's going to face criticism, but everything they've done, even leading up to this year, because they understand the situation. And part of the reason that it's difficult to build around an aging superstar that's making so much money. Look, even the situation that the Lakers have had. They've had arguably the greatest basketball player of all times, and they've had issues building that roster around him and Anthony Davis. And they've misfired. They had the perfect roster around them, and they let it go. So it's across the board, and the new CBA sent a lot of teams scrambling to kind of rebuild how they operate. And one thing before I forget, the one name that I keep looking out for, and I always get back to, is Lonzo Ball and Vucevic with the Bulls. Like, I'm intrigued if we can somehow get those two, because they're not in the future of the Bulls. But honestly, once again, it will have to be a 3-team deal as well. Someone that wants Jimmy, Bulls get young players and assets, and we get Lonzo Ball and Vucevic. Lonzo Ball for a year because his contract is expiring, and Vucevic goes into next year. And he's a viable piece to play next to Bam as well, and gives you size. Kind of an old school center, but he's still a very productive player, and he's having a great efficient season this year. If you look at Vucevic's numbers, he can still ball, man. So I would go back to the Ball and Vucevic as a good option if it ever materializes.
Let me just say too, very quick. Barry Jackson put this up here, and it's really, I look at it, the Suns, who are 15-18, the highest payroll in sports. That's a tale of two sides there.
Yeah.
You see what happened with Miami today, and people, Miami should have done all these moves. And you look at Phoenix. I mean, that's what they did. They got Bradley Beal, they got Devin Booker, they got KD, and but where's their bench? Look at their construction.
They traded their youth. They traded their productive youth, man.
It's the tale of two swords here. And so something to keep in mind when people get mad that Miami didn't do all these type of moves that they were dreaming of happening. So let me start off with Dahl and then Martel, Alex, just because we're at the hour.
Go ahead.
And everyone who's watching, we appreciate you tuning in, watching the Goon Squad here on FTSN. You got Martel of the Miami Heat Zone. You got Dahl of Dahl's Diaries, and Alex of East 10th Street Boys and FTSN. And of course, myself. Appreciate everybody's watching. Hey, if you're tuning in from wherever you're tuning in on, whether it's Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, if you're watching from the Miami Heat Zone, which is awesome. Appreciate you all tuning in. We got almost 450 people watching right now, which is really cool. If you're watching anywhere other than YouTube, do me a favor. If you're on the Miami Heat Zone, hit that subscribe button there. Then do me a favor, hop on to the Finstock Sports Network page and then subscribe there as well. If you love Heat, make sure you subscribe to Miami Heat Zone. If you love the Heat and sports, hit FTSN. Go over to FTSN. We appreciate that. We start off this new year with a bang, which we are. So, Martel, I'm going to start off with you, brother, before we wrap this up, man. How does this play out in your mind? How would you see this ending?
So Jimmy is gone, and I guess, we trade him for, like I said, maybe one or two young guys, maybe one or two first-round picks. And like I said, we have to be able to move on in the future. I think that we've had a great run. There's nothing wrong with that. We've came very close. Sometimes you have to lose to win. And that's how all these teams that are really good right now, like the Thunder and the Rockets, and the list goes on. They were losing ever since Kevin Durant left and all these other, different, players left their franchise. Same thing like with the Orlando Magic. Nobody was even talking about the Orlando Magic for the long time. But then they got Paolo Banchero. They got all these other young guys. I know we don't want to lose. I know we don't want to go through, droughts where we're not consistently in the playoffs. But we've been honestly competing for championships for like 5 years. And there's nothing wrong with taking a step back so that we can take a couple steps forward. It's just that we don't have to do a full, rebuild and tear the team down. But going forward, everything needs to be focused on Bam and Tyler and the young guys and making the right decisions. Because like I said, this is probably about 80% on Pat and 20% on Jimmy, because when Pat Riley sat up there and said, well, I have a hard time trading players, then why are you here? That is your job. He was known for trading players. He was known for flipping rosters. He was known for, completely trading 5 guys and another 5 guys come in, because it's about winning championships. So I think some of the culture has definitely slipped. We might need a change of, maybe like a mindset, like at the top. Pat is 80 years old. And like I said, he did say He has a hard time trading guys, and we didn't trade Caleb, we didn't trade Max, we didn't trade Gabe, and where are they where are they right now? And they had decent value at that time. So I think going forward, we have to go young. The Jimmy Butler era, unfortunately, is over, and there's nothing wrong with that. The Miami Heat will rise again. We're known for coming back and really trying to compete, but I just don't like when Pat continues to say that we can compete for a championship or we can beat Boston. How? How are we going to be like, why is he coming out here saying stuff like that? That's the stuff that I just don't understand. You have to be smart. And that's what Pat used to be smart. He understood that the teams, we might not be that good, but guess what? I'm still going to continue to make the moves till we get to where we want to be. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And let me ask you, Alex. So let me just say, Martel, very quick. So you think that before the deadline, he's going to get moved for younger pieces, and it's going to kind of be a reset.
He's going to be traded before these 7 days are up because I don't see them.
Okay.
Because then where's he going to go? They're not going to have him in the locker room, and technically,
I agree.
They're not going to have him around. So I think, one of these seconds we're going to wake up and he's going to be gone. And like I said, I'm praying. I am crossing my fingers. We at least get 2 first-round picks, and if we can get that, I'm cool with that.
I think that's fair enough. And Courtney, how do you think this finishes up with Jimmy? Do you think he'll be traded before the 7 days? Do you see it like it's maybe a little bit into before the deadline, or does he stay till the end of the year?
I think it'll be before the deadline, or they're going to try if they can make it work. I don't know if they can get it done in 7 days. I just think that there's a lot of drama surrounding it now, and I think that might delay what's happening. But I definitely think it's going to be before the deadline. If it's not, I think that would be the most detrimental thing to the team. If the only way it doesn't get done is if they don't have viable options. Because I don't see Pat panic trading Jimmy and, just hurrying up to do it before the deadline because the deadline's there. So I think it'll happen. But if it doesn't, I can see them not rushing a deal or making a crazy deal, but I definitely think it'll happen. I just think that just buckle up. I think it's going to be a rough, I'm going to say 2 to 3 years. Don't think that Jimmy's going to go away and we're going to be fixed and it's going to be great. I think that this year is going to be a struggle, especially figuring out who we are without Jimmy Butler. And it's going to take years. We have pieces. We do have players that are the future and are going to go, but we have holes, and this kind of just opened up and made it more apparent the holes that we didn't get fixed. And I think that we need to take the next year or two and fill those holes, plug it in, try to get assets, try to get the right players in, and get a new identity. Because this team for the past couple years has been Jimmy's team. It's been Himmy. It's been lack off in the regular season, but playoff push comes. We got playoff Jimmy. We got playoff Heat. We may suck in the regular season, but we are that playoff team. I think now we need to maybe be a more consistent team throughout the year. Try to not just be the play in 8th seed and get a new identity. And that's going to take time. So I think that it's just going to be I wouldn't say a full rebuild, but it's just got to be a minor facelift. But I don't see Jimmy staying past the deadline unless, like I said, something happens. There's no good deals. There's really no teams. Maybe this is all just, media fucker and really behind the scenes, no one's calling Pat or no one's really given much for a 36-year-old drama queen. Time will tell, but I think that Heat fans just need to be realistic and understand that this is not going to be a quick fix. This is going to take a couple years.
Right on. Alex.
One second, but she is absolutely right, because when you look at the Eastern Conference standings, the Cavs were terrible for years after LeBron left. They're the 1 seed. The Boston Celtics, they laughed at the Boston Celtics once they traded Paul Pierce and Garnett. They got all those picks from Brooklyn. They're the second seed. The New York Knicks, they haven't won anything for a long time. They're the third seed. All these different teams that are way above us, they were terrible for the past few years. But they were able, through first-round picks, moving players. That's the thing that has to change, like with this Miami Heat team. They have to be willing to make the right moves. They should have traded Jimmy last year. They knew they weren't going to pay him. I know for Pat. Listen, if Pat Riley wasn't going to pay him last year, why all of a sudden are they going to pay him this year? Nothing changed. They should have moved off of him this summer, so that now you go into the regular season with a brand new roster, and we're not worrying about what's our identity, because Dollar's right. This Miami Heat team is Jimmy Butler was missed like no other. I just think, like I said, the team, they're getting paid millions of dollars. It's time to galvanize the truth. Bam needs to get that locker room in order, and let's start winning some games. Like I said, sometimes you have to take a step back, but we will be okay in the future.
Right on. Alex, I know where your mindset is about how it could possibly last to the summer, why it benefits Miami to do that. It could be moved, but I want to ask you a different question, because I see a lot of the comments, and I'm sure you do too, about a lot of people saying about Bam and the way the Miami Heat performed today, and that's why Bam is not a superstar and why Tyler's not. Obviously, again, I put a lot of today on the Jimmy Butler situation. Obviously, you would want these guys who are professionals being paid a lot of money. They're supposed to be the faces of the franchise. They're the captains, yet they didn't show up tonight when the fan base and the team needed them the most. It was not a great game, especially against the worst team. But let's talk post Jimmy for a second. Life post Jimmy with Bam and Tyler at the helm. I'm reading the comments. People are saying, no, trade them all. This. People are going off of Bam. I know where you're on this, so I want you to talk about that, why you think, or no, I'll let you answer. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, go ahead.
How is life post Jimmy with Bam and Tyler at the helm? Can the Heat get better with those guys leading the way? How would that look?
Absolutely. I think they can be better, because that's why I strive about team basketball. And I understand, and Court hit a nail in the head when she talked about identity. When you have a team that has an identity, you don't just alter that in a day, or just because someone is suspended or traded. That's engraved in your brain. That's engraved in your muscle memory. Like, you are an athlete that you push your body to the limit, and you're used to a certain style of play, a certain style of leadership. Jimmy Butler was not the captain, but Jimmy Butler was our leader. He was our driving force. Why? Because it was who he is. This team was built around that charisma, around that persona. So the team becomes your coach. The team becomes your leader. The one thing that rebuilding teams don't have is someone with the talents and versatility of a Bam Adebayo and an ascension of a Tyler Hero. So a lot of people, and I told you this last year, the Denver Nuggets, the Boston Celtics, the past two champions, what do they have in common? They were built with their draft and their development. The Boston Celtics started raw and young with Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and they started adding pieces, but they were developing. The new CBA, now the teams with the highest payroll, look at the records. You just mentioned Phoenix Suns. Minnesota took a step back by trading Cat. And why? Because it was a financial reason. There was financial repercussions. This is a new NBA. And believe it or not, I understand we're talking about OKC. I think OKC is going to be great for years to come. But now OKC has decisions to make too. Everybody is getting max extensions in that team. That's going to be a tax. And I guarantee you, people are going to surprise. There might be a move or two where you're going to be like, oh, damn, OKC traded that guy? Yeah, because it's financial repercussions. This is a business. People forget that. Like, yeah, you're NBA owners and you're billionaires, but even if you're a billionaire, people don't want to lose $300 million just on taxes. Like, Steve Ballmer is willing to do it, but even Steve Ballmer did it with Paul George. They're not going to go over a limit. And even with Jimmy, realistically, the plan was to give Jimmy a contract kind of like in the James Harden range. 3 years, $100 million or $111 million, where he's making $30 million a year, $33 million. And realistically, that might be the contract Jimmy gets next. He's not going to get a max deal anywhere he goes. I guarantee you that. But life post Jimmy, it was kind of being prepared because you already saw the shift this year in the offense. You saw the shift in the team, but you couldn't see the shift in identity because Jimmy was there. Jimmy was part of the team. Jimmy was supposed to be part of this team. And this team would have been successful. Do I still think we're going to make the playoffs? Yes, because we have to make the playoffs. We do not. We need to have another 15, 16 overall pick where he's part, pardon me, of the rotation going forward, or a rotational piece or an asset to us. So it's not productive to tank this season. And I don't even, there's enough talent in this roster where you're going to be a playing team, whether people like it or not. Like this roster can compete. Now, what I want to see and what's going to dictate is this road trip. This is a road trip where a team comes together, especially a team that is facing an emotional downfall of a decision that's what people don't understand. People always see the front office and the player. What people do not see is when you peel back the curtain is the effect it has on the team, on the coaching staff. These are people you spend more time with these people than your own family on a yearly basis. So is it going to hurt? Absolutely. Are you going to feel that you belong out there, that you should be out there? You're going to miss them? 100%. And those are brotherhoods and friendships that last a lifetime. But the Heat has a plan in place. I know it got blowtorched in the last 48 hours, but there is a plan in place, even of succession in the front office. Like, this is no longer only Pat Riley making decisions. This is an equal amount of voices where, yeah, Pat has a final decision, but Adam Simon has a voice, and Adam Simon will probably be the future president or vice president. Eric Spoelstra has a voice, and the Ellisberg has a voice. Nick Arison has a voice. It's not Mickey running the day-to-day operations. People still think it's Mickey. The CEO of the Miami Heat is Nick Arison, his son. He's involved in the decision-making as well, and he started from the bottom. So I do not think the Heat are going to be forced to make a move. They have an urgency to make a move because of the team, and you don't want to lose this season just on that. But they will not be forced to make a move to take back bad contracts, to take long-term contracts. The Heat will take expiring deals, and due to the fact that they're going to take expiring deals, they're not going to get more than a first-round pick. Maybe they're going to get multiple second-round picks, but what they're looking at this, and I know it's insane what I'm about to say, but they're looking at as financial flexibility. I understand, and you mentioned it, we value Jimmy Butler. There's other teams that can use Jimmy Butler this year in spurts. Jimmy Butler cannot be a focal point for a team anymore. Like, he cannot be your best player. And that's part of being an aging superstar. We all knew, and remember, Bobby, how many times I talked about Jimmy's role changing? Like, this team can be successful if Jimmy accepts his role and it changes.
Yeah.
Like, an aging superstar is the most difficult thing to deal with in the sports world because you are a supreme athlete. You don't understand their limitations. And very few, I'll use an example, and it's both with the Spurs. Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili. Manu Ginobili became a sixth man almost still in the prime of his career because he understood that role would explode the Spurs into a different stratosphere. Tim Duncan, he knew his limitations. He aged gracefully. With Jimmy, we knew it was never going to happen. I didn't know it was going to happen this way because I figured that he could have his role and Jimmy could still be averaging 18 points, 7 assists, 7 rebounds, like he was averaging this year. Look at these games. For people that don't understand basketball, and Jimmy talks about his role, that's just a play to drive his value up, that he's not being productive because of his role. Look at his role this year. His numbers were the most efficient he's ever had. His shooting percentage was efficient. He was playing efficient. The Miami Heat were playing efficient with him. So I do not believe they're going to be rushed. There's an urgency to move them, but they're not going to be rushed. And I tell you, I will not be surprised if this drags on into the season. After the suspension, you have a mutual agreement of just staying away from the team. You're going to get your money paid, and we'll take care of it in the offseason. It's not ideal. I would not be surprised if it happens because Miami, I guarantee you this, they will not be forced to make a move that they do not want to make because they've done that before. They did it with Rozier last year, and they saw the ramifications of that. And I heard even a comment about, a good front office will move a piece, just acquire it and move it. Yes, I understand that, but why would you put yourself in more hardship by acquiring bad contracts continuously? We've already done that. Like, we're trying to overcome that as you're building, and it's very difficult to build when you have a 36-year-old making $50+ million on your roster. Now, what do you have? You have two young guys that are going to be your highest paid players. Even Duncan's contract is going to go down. He's not going to be making $19 million next year. He has $8 million guaranteed. So if he's on the team, yeah, he'll make it. But now you have manageable pieces and you can build around it. And people don't forget this. The end goal, I understand it could change. The De'Aaron Fox situation, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson. But the end goal is still free agency 2026. Now, I understand free agency doesn't really exist anymore. But 2026 is a huge shift in the NBA landscape. And the Heat are aligned, just like they were aligned in 2010. The Heat are aligned to be major players in 2026. So do not be surprised if every move they make, like I tell you, this team is not going to tank because you got Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo. They're just too good to just flat out tank like the Jazz were doing previously, like the Pelicans were doing now because of injuries. So this team will compete. This team will have a new identity. And now it's up to coaching staff, front office, and the players in that locker room. When there's a key word that Spo said, and I'm sorry for running long, but there's a key word that he said that I knew was going to take into effect is we have clarity. Everything the team needs is clarity. Why? Because now you know what you're dealing with. And a personal note, last year we had a situation in our team. The head coach at the time and a player was suspended. First game of the season, a team that we should beat. We still had good players, decent players. We lost by 36 points. Why? Because the team just went through it 2 days before. There were suspensions. There was possible firings. And that is the emotional state, even with professional athletes, can be quantified because you do not understand what's going to happen. You start off adrenaline. But then when that zimmers down and you start missing shots and then you start even thinking of, am I in the right spot? I don't know if you saw the game today. There was moments that even the players, they were in wrong spots because they're not used to certain situations and certain gameplays because the combinations that they were going. So the coaching staff will figure it out. They'll figure out the starting lineup. They'll figure out the rotation. One thing that we have is youth and depth. And now you're going to get to shine and you're going to get to play free. We talked about this many times. When Jimmy wasn't there, this team played more freely and more up-tempo, more to their identity. So it's going to take a few games to stabilize. And Court said it, the noise is going to be very loud. And as a team, you have to shut that down, go play ball. You're on a road trip, so it's not just you and your guys. So now it's team bonding. Now it's a new identity. So you'll see this team get on a roll maybe in 2 to 3 games, depending on who we get in return. And even if we don't get anybody in return and this trade drags out, this is going to start building a new identity. It's like an identity shift in season, which is very difficult to do. It's very difficult to trade your most important player mid-season and based on those circumstances. It wasn't that it was just a trade. It was a demand. It was an emotional demand after an emotional loss, and it caught everybody by surprise. So it's just, you have to work through it. There's nothing else you can do. And you have to take the bumps on the road, but I think we're going to be all right. I think we're going to come out on top in a few years.
There you go. Courtney, before we wrap up, any final words?
I see the chat. And yes, Duncan Robinson's contract was worth it. Shut up. You got a problem with Duncan, you got a problem with me. And so just to clarify that, I see your comments and I'm ignoring them because they're stupid. I ride with Duncan. He rides with me. He doesn't know he rides with me, but he rides with me.
There you go. There you go. Martel, any final words, brother?
Guys, make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button. They're pushing to 3,000 subscribers. Make sure that you follow Doll as well. And I'm pushing to 6,000 subscribers. Guys, thank you for having me on the show. And thank you guys for all the support.
100%, man. Thank you for coming on. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in wherever you're watching, again, on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. If you're watching on FTSN, if you're watching on Miami Heat Zone, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you're watching. If you're watching on the Miami Heat Zone, subscribe there. Hop on over to Finstock Sports Network, subscribe as well. If you're watching FTSN, jump to Miami Heat Zone and subscribe.
It's now on site. On site. It's fine.
Don't play. I will say the I think and I will just just to follow up very quick before I wrap this up, that I think he'll be moved before the deadline because I think he could make it very ugly for Miami. Because I've heard that notion too that maybe Miami could ask him to just stay away, but I think they can't do that unless it's mutually agreed upon. So because after they suspend him for 7 days, he's gonna have the chance to come back. So I think that's why it might be where it's like, okay, we just have to move him and get it going. Just obviously get the best deal you can. But we'll talk more on it. It won't be the last. We'll be back on. As this breaks and all this, if anything breaks, we'll be on live. If not, we'll be on next week as well. That's Courtney. You can follow her at let's say your Twitter handle for me, Courtney.
It's doll_fan PHAN 72. And then I also do Doll's Diaries on Mondays at 8 right here on Finstock Sports Network.
Awesome. You catch Alex and myself together on East Century Boys usually on Wednesday nights at 9:30. Martel, you come on all the time, brother. What's your next show? If you want to do your small plug very quick.
Well, we have like a few shows lined up. Like it's like the Miami Heat Zone. Make sure that you guys like, share, comment, subscribe. But like I said, these guys work hard. They have multiple shows. Make sure that you guys subscribe first on this platform.
Absolutely. And I'll be back on live tomorrow morning I saw some Dolphin fans in the comments. I'll be live tomorrow for the pregame show, 11 o'clock Eastern time, to talk Dolphins. Can the Dolphins make the playoffs? They got to win. And then we need the Broncos to lose. So a lot to dream, but hey, it is what it is. Appreciate you all, guys. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe, and good night, Miami.